Okay, so today we're diving into something kind of different. It's this list. It's called My Principles, but it's got work in progress right there in the title.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's not like, those generic self-help things. This is like someone actually trying to figure out their own path, to success.
It's a refreshing, right? It's
About
like a peek behind the curtain, seeing how someone's actually thinking about this stuff.
exactly. And they don't waste any time either. Principle #1 is do great things with great people.
Straight to the point.
Right. But then it gets interesting because they actually define what they mean by great people. And it's not just about being talented.
No, it's deeper than that. It's
Yeah.
about the kind of people who challenge you, push you to grow.
Which is a perfect segue to Principles 3 and 4, because those are all about feedback. And not just any feedback, but like harsh feedback, both giving and receiving.
That's where this whole thing takes a turn,
Right.
right? It's not your typical feel-good advice. This is about embracing the uncomfortable stuff.
For real. Have you ever gotten feedback like where it stung at first, but then it actually like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Early in my career, I had this mentor, and he told me straight up, you need to be way more concise in your presentations.
Mm.
Yeah, I was definitely defensive at first, but I'm glad I got over myself and really listened. It completely changed how I communicated.
See, that's what's so great about this list. It's like this person's not afraid of those tough conversations, those moments that push you out of your comfort zone.
And that's how you grow, right?
Right.
It's like those high-performing teams you always hear about. They don't shy away from a little friction.
No, they don't. Actually, it's kind of the opposite. It's like they embrace it because if everyone just agrees all the time,
You get stuck.
totally, no innovation, no breakthroughs. And this person, they get that, which I think leads us to another super interesting aspect, impact. Principle #5 is all about pursuing great things, but not for the money or the recognition. It's about making a positive impact on the world.
And that's where we start to see what this person really values, right? They even list out specific fields that fascinate them.
Okay, get this. Physics, AI, biology, to all the STEM stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then they throw in public policy, education, behavioral economics. Like, whoa, hold up.
It's quite the mix.
It is. It's like this Renaissance person who sees all these connections between different fields.
Exactly. It's not just about being really good at one thing. It's about seeing the bigger picture
Yeah.
and how it all fits together.
Okay, so we've got someone who embraces diverse perspectives, loves a little tough love, and has this like insatiable curiosity about, well, everything. I don't know about you, but I am hooked. All right, so we're back and ready to like really dig into the why behind these principles because it's not just about setting goals, right? It's about connecting those goals to something bigger.
Absolutely. And you see that right away in principle. #11 reduce suffering in the world. And they even call out poverty, specifically like this is personal for them.
Totally. It's like this isn't just some abstract idea, it's something they're actively thinking about.
Exactly. It's values driven,
Yeah.
you know? And it makes that whole Renaissance person vibe even more interesting. It's not just curiosity. It's like they want to use all that knowledge to make a difference.
And that really comes through in how they think about the people they work with, too. Like principle #13.
Hmm?
Surround yourself with people who have concrete skills, example, engineering, software design, operations head, rather than consultants and managers.
Whoa. Okay. That's a statement right there.
Right. You don't see that every day?
It's like they're saying, show me what you can do, not just what you can talk about.
Talk is cheap, right?
Exactly. Give me substance. Give me action. And I think it goes back to that impact thing we were talking about. They're not interested in just thinking about problems. They want to solve them.
Yeah.
And that takes a certain kind of team
One with a very specific set of skills.
and diverse skills, too. Remember how they were talking about physics and AI, but then also things like education and behavioral economics.
It's like they're building their own Justice League or something.
Right. Each person bringing their own superpower to the table. But it's not just about individual skills either. It's about how those skills work together.
And how they're all driven by that same desire for impact.
Which brings us to, I think, a really important point that we see throughout these principles. It's this balance between challenging yourself and respecting expertise.
So it's not just about surrounding yourself with yes people. It's about finding people who will push you in the right ways.
People who will tell you when you're wrong, but also who have the skills and the experience to help you get it right.
Okay, so we've got the why, the deep-seated values, and the drive to make a real impact. Now let's talk about the how. All right, so we've talked about the why, the values, the impact. Now let's get into the how. And this person does not mess around. Principle, #7. Fail fast and recover quickly.
Love it. Gets right to the point.
Right. It's like they're saying, look, you're going to make mistakes, especially if you're trying to do something big.
Exactly. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about how you handle it.
Learn from it, adapt, move on, don't get bogged down. But speaking of learning, that brings us to principle #21. And I gotta say, this one made me laugh out loud. Dumb advice is worse than doing nothing. Know from who to take advice for what.
Oh, I love that one. So true.
Right. It's like not all advice is created equal.
Definitely not. Just because someone's successful in one area doesn't mean they have all the answers.
Exactly. Like you wouldn't ask a heart surgeon for financial advice, would you?
Probably not a good idea.
So how do you actually get better at figuring out who to listen to? What are some red flags people should look out for?
Well, one thing is be wary of generic advice. Look for advice that's tailored to your specific situation, your specific challenges.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. What else?
Be wary of anyone who claims to have all the answers. The best mentors, the best advisors, they're always learning too.
They're humble. They admit when they don't know something.
Exactly. And that brings us back to this idea of constantly seeking out new knowledge, diverse perspectives.
Which is something this person is clearly all about. I mean, you've got principles in here about first principles thinking, understanding history, human behavior. It's like they're building this mental model of the world from all these different angles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're not just relying on their own experience, they're drawing on the wisdom of the past, the insights of different fields.
And that leads to what I think is a really fascinating paradox we see in Principles 18 and 19. On the one hand, you've got change is the only constant, so be adaptable, right? But then they follow it up with our initial judgments are often flawed, so be humble. It's like, how do you hold both of those ideas at the same time?
I think that's the heart of it, isn't it? Being able to hold those two seemingly contradictory ideas, being confident in your ability to adapt, but also being open to being wrong, to changing your mind.
It's like that quote, strong opinions, loosely held. Be willing to update your beliefs when presented with new information.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final principle we'll touch on today. Principle #33. Our perceptions of people, ideas, and things change over time due to both emotions and new information.
I like that a lot. It acknowledges that we're not just these rational robots, right? Our feelings, our experiences, they all shape how we see the world.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that we're all works in progress, constantly evolving, learning, growing, which I think is a perfect place to leave it.
It really is. This whole deep dive, it's been like a masterclass in intentional living, in building a life aligned with your values. And I think the biggest takeaway for our listeners is this. What are your guiding principles? What matters most to you?
It's a question worth asking yourself, because ultimately, the most successful life is the one that's true to yourself.
Couldn't agree more. So until next time, thanks for joining us and keep diving deep.